When the daylight is falling down into the night, and the sharks try to cut a big piece out of life, it feels all right to go out to catch an outrageous thrill, but it's more like spinning wheels of fortune which never stand still. Big city nights, you keep me burning. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, deep in the bowels of our underground lair. We will know their votes by the trail of dead, and we're auditing the machines as we speak. And I just found 85,000 votes for Joe Biden under my chair.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's 85,000 to nothing, right?
Yes. Yes. I don't even have to look.
Are we ever going to get out of our underground lair? Are we just going to be down here for good?
We might have to be.
I mean, I know it's what do you call it? Drone proof down here, so nobody can listen in on, I'm sure they are. I mean,
Yes.
no doubt about it. I don't know why, because everything we say is on the air. But
You're right. No waiting down here, lock, stock, and barrel to be handed over to the gallows.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Jay. The song,
Yeah.
Big City Nights.
Yeah.
I know it.
Okay.
But I don't know it.
Okay.
Give me a minute to think.
All right.
I know this one.
We've never had this group on the podcast before. So.
God dang! So it's not Alice Cooper. Okay, hang on.
Huey Lewis of the News.
Oh God!
Wow.
Oh, I feel dumb every time I think I know it. Make a stupid guess.
That's all right.
I'm gonna say the Scorpions.
Yes.
There we go.
Never had the Scorps on the podcast before, so that's a first.
Okay. I did get it right.
Yeah.
And while you were singing, I was actually reading something on Twitter, so I
Wasn't really singing, but
well, your attempt at singing. I mean, let's just put it that
I am
way.
a professional. I mean, when I
Professional meaning
when I
you're
sing, you would
you're
know
in the
it.
rookie league. That's professional.
Well,
I
make enough. Well, I made enough to get by. I mean, previous to. I want to thank my friend, Governor Tim Walz, for canceling the rest of my shows for the
your
the
friend.
other day.
Maybe your friend.
Yeah. Thank you for taking away my livelihood again.
Is there something to not? There's been politicians in my life, Jay, that I don't like. Politicians that I didn't vote for. Politicians I did vote for that I still don't like. Tim Walz gets on television.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like watching a train wreck. I don't want to see it. Can't stand the sight of him.
Yeah.
Wish I could reach through the television, and I won't say on the air, but I can't look away either. And I'm going to tell you, the Minnesota media almost challenged him the other day.
Really?
Almost. I mean, S.B. Murphy must have had the day off or something, because, it was kind of... Walz was really testy, and he kept interrupting the questions. And it was somebody asked him if his executive orders he still thought were legitimate, which was strange to see. He was kind of a deer in headlights on that answer.
Question.
And Tom Hauser from Channel 5 tried to ask, why the other states around us are having decreasing cases and aren't on lockdown.
Yeah.
And what's her name? Malcolm tried to claim that Wisconsin counties are on shutdown.
You mean
which
the
is a
non-doctor
head
of Health and Human Services?
Health Department political hack.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't care if she's a doctor. My opinion of doctors are lower than politicians right now. There was a doctor on Meet the Depressed over the weekend that tried to claim that if you got the vaccine, you still need to wear a mask and socially distance with people. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That was at
Ramadan Abdul-Jabbar Skyhook. I don't know what his name was. Doesn't matter. They all can kiss my ass as far as I'm concerned. Doctors are as low on the totem pole in my mind as they could be. They couldn't get any. It's like doctors and Tim Walz keep digging to try to get lower on the totem pole.
Well, were you? Oh, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, I don't have a good thought.
Oh. Did you catch? I didn't catch that question, but later he brought up Jen Malcolm and that other guy. And he
Steve Grove, the executive.
Sure, whatever, it doesn't matter. he was talking about how we've got to monitor things over the next 6 months. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're really looking at June, which I said and I predicted before that we shut down all spring because people were inside. Why would we open it up any earlier than that this year?
I'll tell you why. Because I think the vaccine will be available to everybody by March. And I think the politicians are saying 6 months because they don't want us to change our behavior. They want to keep us in fear, keep us scared, keep us kowtowing at home, humping our banister and not afraid to go outside. That's afraid to get together with somebody for Christmas. They're fear-mongering, but I think the vaccines are going to come so much faster than we think, especially once it gets in the private hands. Once it gets into a CVS, the government can't regulate who gets it and who doesn't at that point.
Right. But
I agree there's people we need to prioritize.
Yeah.
But once that's done, and Minnesota alone is getting 200,000 doses of this this month.
Yes.
That's enough for our frontline workers and the long-term care.
Yeah.
Then it goes to other essential workers, people over 65.
Yeah.
Then it goes to the general public. And I think that's going to happen much quicker than people think because once this stuff is approved and the private sector starts ramping up production, because the demand is so high.
Right.
You're going to see that bridge much, much faster than they're talking about.
I hope so.
Or we're going to get to herd immunity.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to get to a point where 40, 50, 60% of the people have either had it as asymptomatic, had mild cases, or whatever. We're going to get to one of the two, I think, really fast.
Here's the one caveat. Now, I'm still pulling for the president. I'm just going to put that out there. But should there be a Joe Biden administration, he could, and he has talked about making sure that the shipments of this thing gets to other parts of the world instead of the United States first. That could throw a wrench in it. Also, if the rest of the world does not get it as quickly as us, they are still going to use fear to keep us locked down because people come in from other countries that could potentially have it. I think once the vaccine is showing to be effective and safe, I think Biden 5 weeks from now can't stop that. I sure hope so.
I mean, I really don't think so. And I think if he does, there's going to be he's going to get overrun. The health department is has been planning this for 10 months. I mean, the states have taken control of a lot of this too. I'm not sure he can walk in on day one and say, no. We're not going to give this is a guy who ran partly on, this thing was mismanaged and blah, blah, blah. He can't then come in and sabotage it. I think, he may do it. He may have said that not knowing what day it was. I would believe that. But, that's
possible.
But
it's not just him, but some of the people I know that he'll bring in with him, I know are
possible.
thinking that way too.
Again, I think that... See, I don't trust the media to accurately cover that either.
But I mean, keep in mind also, everybody he's bringing in is super unqualified for the positions that he's appointing them to.
Well, that just goes without saying. I mean, Pete Buttigieg is one of the people. That's enough for me. Now, Jay, I want to get to the lockdown thing real quick because. Did you hear about the case Anytime Fitness was bringing against Governor Walz?
I did not.
Okay, and I think this is part of why fitnesses are opening on Saturday.
Probably.
As limited as humanly possible.
That is kind of why he opened the churches and hasn't shut them back down as well from last time we were
I mean, you can now work out within, you need to be 855,000 feet from somebody.
Yes.
But you now can, and you have to wear a mask the size of Alaska. But the case that Anytime Fitness has the money, even though they're a franchise, I think they had the money to, the way small businesses don't, to really drown Walz and go on appeal and things like that. The case that they were making, this is very interesting, because I think it was something that I think the bar and restaurant industry has got to do. They did not attack Walz's executive authority. What they attacked was the fact that he didn't present any evidence that health clubs were, however you define that, were super spreaders or caused any kind of spike in
Right.
cases. So, and I was interested to see how that would come out. I think the case will be probably, I don't know if it will go forward now that they get to open, very, very limited.
Right.
This 4-week pause, which, let's correct the record, it's an indefinite shutdown.
Yes. And that's what I said before, is that, you just watch. He extended this long enough to get past, get to the date where they have to re-up it.
Yeah, right. He couldn't do it for any longer.
No.
But here's the thing, too. I mean, it's such a catch-22. If cases go down, they'll say, okay, the lockdown is working. We need to stay locked down.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, well, then we need to lock down harder.
Right.
That's the rationale, which it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. However, interesting argument, though, to make that I think they really didn't show any data that health clubs or fitness centers, I don't know, really most cases where you got them are unknown. If you really want to be honest about it, it's very difficult unless you get it from somebody in your immediate household. You really can't pinpoint where you got it from. Now, the health department's been running around asking people, have you gone out to a restaurant in the last 2 weeks?
Right. They're trying to build a case.
Right. And then that's when they leak things out like, 12 cases are linked to Joe's Bar and Grill. Well,
you don't know that.
They don't have a damn clue whether that's the truth or not. It's just, it's a way to manipulate people's behavior and justify restrictions. And I think the same thing here with the fitness centers. I'm just interested to see how that case would have ended up. Because the cases that have gone after the emergency powers seem to fall by the wayside.
Right.
If you go after that the data doesn't back up, that may be an interesting case to watch. And I encourage bars and restaurants to go out and make that case. Go out and look at our neighboring states, seeing the same spike that we had, the same drop that we've had, and they've done nothing whatsoever when it comes to those industries.
Yeah.
And it'd be a good thing for our media to get off their dead asses and go look at. How do you sit there and see all this data and not do some independent analysis?
Well, that's journalism today.
If you can call it that.
You start with a theory and you look for things to support your theory. You don't look for the truth. And I just want to throw this out there, that Republicans, come here, just one moment.
I was going to say something about them next.
Just one moment, you and me. Let's have a little chat.
Don't involve me in this conversation.
No, Andrew's right. I want to talk to you about that. Andrew's right. That we can't go after the emergency powers because the state constitution, the way that it's written, allows for him to be able to do what he's doing. You need to submit something this year to fix it. Get something on the ballot for 2 years from now that is going to change it so that he doesn't get to just keep it open if you guys can't get 50%. So that it's going to close unless he gets 50%. It has to be flip-flopped. You can't just have emergency powers forever unless you can shut him down. No, he has to be shut down and has to convince people to allow him to keep them. All right? Let me do something constructive with your time.
Let me make a more distinct case for that.
Yes.
Whatever the governor seemed to want, he seemed to somehow at the end of the day get.
Yes.
I don't understand that.
As if there was only one party in St. Paul.
He got a police reform bill that you and I dissected in an episode last summer. He got his bonding bill where the Republicans compromised by giving him 95% of what he wanted.
Yep.
He just got his economic aid package, which is nothing more than an excuse to prolong shutdowns. Republicans sat at the table, gave him practically... And by the way, here I love the Republican compromise on unemployment benefits.
Yes.
Republicans proposed 5 weeks. Democrats proposed 13. What do you think the compromise was?
11.
13.
Oh.
Nice negotiating.
Yeah, way to go.
Wow.
Way to get something for that.
Yeah, no kidding. And what have we gotten in return from the governor? We've gotten a middle finger. Him and Winkler, him and Arthur Fonzarelli Winkler the third Jr. have all just given the middle finger to and Gazelka today.
Yeah.
You see what he said today?
Well, the governor's done it figuratively, but I think Winkler's done it actually.
Yeah, okay,
yes.
fine. Did you see what Gazelka said today?
No.
Well, because Ellison is going after the people trying to open up.
Yeah.
Gazelka's threatening to defund the Attorney General's office. So you want to defund law enforcement. I understand being upset at Ellison.
Yes.
But that's not the men and women who are serving law enforcement are not people picked by Keith Ellison. Okay,
right.
They don't get to pick and choose. You can go after Ellison for his misuse of this office, and I think hearings should be on that.
Absolutely.
Where are the hearings for Jan Malcolm and Steve Grove? Where have they been?
There should be a whole bunch of Senate hearings on that.
Put them under oath,
Yes.
and I want to hear. So I mean, you've got control of an entire chamber, advice and consent of the Senate.
Yep.
And instead, again, it's the worthless bloviating, it's the whiny,
capitulating.
but the Republicans this entire time have had no conclusive message. They've had no coherent. The last time the Republican Party had a coherent message was 1994. Okay?
Yeah.
There hasn't been one since. And I'm not saying everybody has to agree with each other on everything. No, I don't believe that. You debate internally. You understand that everybody isn't lockstep with each other. That happens in a big political party.
Yes.
But if you can't come up with a handful of principles that you can all agree on, go forward with, your party is as worthless as a $3 bill with Arthur Fonzarelli Winkler Jr.'s picture on it. That's how worthless it is. But to see Gazelka go out there, it just, he's being the same bully that Ellison's being. And it's just, oh, God. So, I mean, again, I'm still waiting for those hearings. The governor's appointments that have been sitting there for 2 years. I'm still waiting for those.
And constitutional amendment. There you go. There are your marching orders.
But again,
go get it done.
And again, you want to go, it doesn't have to go to a constitutional amendment. It can be tied to every piece of legislation that gets passed. Yeah, fine. If nothing gets, I said before, the Republicans shouldn't show up for lack of a quorum. Then nothing can get done.
Yeah.
You don't show up. No, we're not going to go. You can't do nothing now. You can't fund a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if they want to play that game, let's play it. But instead, it's saying one thing in public, then all of a sudden, behind closed doors, all of a sudden they got a deal on something.
Yeah.
It involves Walz doing nothing.
Yep.
And the Republicans, all right, we want a $1 billion bonding bill. You want $2? All right, we'll settle at 1.95. Oh, well, wow, I'll tell you what, that's... Then they come back to voters going, well, it's not quite as bad. They say, well, but I zippity-doo-dah, I feel great now.
Right.
So, I mean, I shouldn't laugh about it, but it's just... I don't know what else to do.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what else to do, but the messaging and all that just could not be worse. It just could. Read Jennifer Carnahan's Twitter feed. The messaging couldn't be worse right now. There's legitimate, I'm going to make a prediction right here. Tim Walz gets reelected.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's one guy that can beat him, and it's Pete Stauber. But I don't think Stauber will give up a congressional seat.
I think Pete can beat him. I'm not saying that. I think there's more than one guy that can beat him.
I don't. I think the Republican Party is going to pick whoever's loyalist, whoever's loyal to Trump. I think that's where the party's at right now.
Yeah.
Not thinking about state issues and moving forward. And I love the president. It's nothing against him. They
don't have a vision.
No, they don't. Stauber could win, though. He could win.
Yeah.
But if you're him, he's winning by margins, and the 8th has gone. You give up that seat to maybe run.
Yeah.
But I think he could do it. It might actually get me to vote Republican in 2022 because I don't plan to. So,
I'd have to hear what his platform is, but I think
he'd have to come out with
I think Mike Lindell would be an
See,
interesting
I think
choice
again,
as well.
I think you're going
But
going
I
too
think
Trump.
a lot of it is, and that doesn't bother me if
Doesn't
he
me.
has a plan.
But yeah, I just
If he
I
has
don't
a
see
plan
it,
and he
but-
has the business acumen to be like a Trump here in the state, and
I think
that's what
I
interests
think
me about
Lindell
it.
would be a great guy to bring into an administration.
Absolutely.
I don't know that he's a guy that I see at the top of a ticket articulating a vision. I still don't know what his vision is.
Right.
And he's going to have to go and show that. My guess is as soon as he starts doing that, his numbers go way down. That's what it seems like. The more details you hear about somebody, the less you like them. And I think in Stauber, you have somebody who's won a couple of times, has name ID, will win the 8th by 35 points.
Yeah.
I think you have a chance with him. I don't know where it goes outside of that. There's nobody in the legislature. I don't think you can run a Draws or a Cal Bar. I don't think you can go.
Right.
But I wouldn't have a problem with it. But
No.
I think
They're just not well known enough outside of certain circles.
and got to have the broad support. I mean, I hate to say this,
Andrew,
but it needs.
I'm not going to put up with that kind of speech on this show.
Broad
It is
support,
important.
I mean-
it is important that the women constituency votes. And
I don't mean putting people into groups. I mean. Think about it like this. You're throwing me off.
See, that's okay. You see, you'd have your jokes for me,
Right, but I mean, think about it. Think about like this. Think about President Trump when he first ran.
Okay.
And how he reached voters in a state like Pennsylvania or a state like Michigan. He reached a lot of them again.
Yeah.
But he did it without the traditional. He did it with sort of his own brand of his personality, his politics, and his message. Mm-hmm. And that's what has to happen. They can't just get that Republican base. Mm-hmm. What are those issues that will turn?
You need the issues.
Not throwing your principles away.
You need the issues, and you need someone who's a genius at marketing. Because I tell you right now, the AFL-CIO and the teachers union have such a stranglehold on this state, because every day you get another piece of mail from one or both of them with Democrat candidates on it. And
I don't know how happy they are with Walz right now. But
I don't know either. But
I don't know anybody who is. But
they'll fall in line. I mean, when it comes down to a Democrat and a Republican, they're not going to back a Republican.
The organizations will. I'm not sure that I buy all of their members. I mean, President Trump, for example, and I didn't see the 2020 numbers, but in 2016 he got 44% of union households. The best since Reagan. You can get.
And there's a number of them in some of those unions.
Yeah, the
but
miners
a lot of that is,
and the carpenters, and
it's the other unions.
True,
yes.
but I think John McCain got about 30%.
Yeah,
you can bridge that, and there are some unions that are more independent than others. There's government unions, but unions, I think, money-wise, have a lot of clout. I don't know. They don't have the voting base that they used to have. Look, I'm not running in 2022.
Yeah.
I'm waiting 4 more years.
I might.
So you go ahead.
If I get fed up enough, I never wanted to, but maybe I will.
I'm even creating my own party because I don't want to be in a primary. I don't want to run for some stupid nomination to be 500 delegates to decide who's a candidate. I'm just running as me, but I'm not doing it next time.
Yeah, so maybe we should form a party.
I don't want a party because I want to say what I want, think what I want. I want gambling.
You and I
want the bicycle sales tax. I want,
Yeah.
I don't want to be part of the Independence Party because, one, they're non-existent. 2, they support ranked choice voting.
Yep.
And a few other things that I don't like. So, you have to redefine all of that. And, I mean, if you go back to, say, the Reform Party days, like when Jesse Ventura ran successfully, his failure, and I can't put it all on Jesse, but his failure was not running allies throughout the rest of the state.
Yes.
And not, get Reform Party candidates in this district and that district, and for mayor. And and he failed to capitalize on his movement. So, that's something that I think, and independents continue to do it with. Tim Penny and Dean Barkley and Tom Horner, they all got hundreds of thousands of votes and failed to do anything with them.
Right.
So there is an appetite out there. But you have a Republican Party that is faceless, leaderless, disorganized. It's a mess. And I'm going to tell you, I don't see them winning a statewide election anytime soon.
You know what we should do? Maybe we should write a letter to Texas and see if we can get Alan West to give up his head of the Republican Party in Texas and come up here.
He'd have to be out of his mind to do that.
Well,
maybe he is out of his mind, but he ain't. I like him, but we'll save that. We'll save the president for another day, because quite frankly, I have accepted the president-elect. I think the lawsuits and stuff should go on about voting and irregularities and stopping mail-in balloting in the future. But, to me, it's been exhausted. And we should focus on, the Republicans should focus on those Georgia races and make sure that there's a check to the new administration in the House. Yeah,
I don't have any faith in that either, because they haven't fixed the fraud issues, so...
Well, we'll see. The last time this happened in Georgia was 2008, when Saxby Chambliss was the senator then.
Yeah.
And there were like 39 people in the race, and he got 49.7% or some BS like that.
Yeah.
So they had to have a runoff. And when he read the runoff, he won by like 23.
Right.
It was a total wash. And I don't know. I can't see a turnout.
Yeah. And normally I don't believe the polls. And and here's the thing. I don't believe the polls, but I believe that they have the infrastructure in place to reflect the polls after the election.
Well,
and nobody,
it's hard to say, because when you look at the results, when you look at President Trump pulling even in Ohio and winning by 8.5, when you see him down in Florida and winning by 500,000 votes.
Well, they didn't have the fraud infrastructure in those states.
When you see him even in Iowa and winning by 9, you kind of go, it's hard to fathom how something could be that. I still want to see if Quinnipiac is ever quoted in the state of Ohio again. They were off by 22 points on their poll. Yeah. And I want to just see if they are ever quoted one more time.
Yeah.
And I want to see who does it, too. So it's just, if it's not Scott Rasmussen or
Trafalgar.
If it's not one of those two, I ain't looking at it.
It's interesting. I don't know if you heard, Trafalgar built like a odd bubble into his poll. I don't remember what the percentage was.
But remember, we talked about this in like September. Why were their polls different? Mm-hmm. And the head of that, I can't think of the guy's name, doesn't matter. But he said, because they are not polling new registered voters. If you look at a state like Pennsylvania, that's a state where you designate. Minnesota's not one.
Right.
Where you designate with a party. Republicans were outdoing Democrats in voter registration. But the pollsters were still running the same old call up, this guy and that guy, the same 12 people that they talked to in 2008. That's how they were still conducting their poll. They weren't, and the states that had same-day registration, they were not getting likely voters instead of a registered voter, which is an issue here in Minnesota. So, there's a lot of, I heard him on a podcast, and I don't remember who the hell it was. I don't even know how I came across it. It was on Twitter or something. And it was just to see a 20-minute explanation. Not the 2-second thing that you see on cable news.
Yeah.
A long dissertation of how complicated and difficult polling really can be, and how easy it is to be off or weight something too much or whatever. Anyway, Jay, enough with that crap. We got to get into something. You and I talk all the time about cities being independent, counties being independent, school districts being independent, whatever. We're not going to talk schools today. But it got me to thinking about just the totality of how big and how crazy our system is here in the state of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we'll focus first on transportation, and we'll attempt to give ideas on how to fix this. Some of them may not sound so great at first, but
sometimes you gotta take a little pain with the medicine in order to get better.
What's the medicine go down? What's that?
Spoonful of sugar.
Yeah, okay.
This isn't that. This is like a
we got
spoonful
salt.
of,
this is
of
putting
vinegar with
yeah,
the medicine.
I'm going to wash your mouth out with soap. I want to talk about transportation just for a second.
Let's do it.
That covers, in Minnesota, the definition of transportation is a broad definition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a lot of people think it's just roads. Not in Minnesota.
No.
Okay, it's the whole umbrella of everything from skateboarding to stargazing to whatever you want to say. Whatever.
That would be a new one on me.
Let's drive this car so you can stargaze when you drive. And the thing is, if you look at just transportation dollars,
yes,
you can see right away how difficult it is for communities to be independent and service and govern themselves without a higher form of government sticking figuratively your foot on your head. Okay, take for example. We have three main sources of transportation dollars in this state. We have the gas tax, the motor vehicle sales tax, MVST, not the bicycle sales tax, my favorite, because that's what I would implement.
Yes.
The BST.
Yes.
Okay, and then we also have your tabs, your vehicle registration. And that sort of thing. So you have these three sources of what the government would call revenue and what we would call tax dollars.
Okay.
Now, how that money is distributed, remember, that all goes to state government. Okay, let's stop for a minute. That all goes to the state. Okay. There are other things like a wheelage tax that a county can put on and things like that. But that all goes to the state. Now, your gas tax money. Interesting how that gets spent.
Yes.
28 cents a gallon in taxes. So Jay, you fill up that Flintstone mobile you've got, and you with
from 2016, that one, it's getting there.
You fill that up. I don't know what does it cost to fill up the old Bradley mobile.
Depends. Around $30 usually.
Okay, so $30.
Sometimes less.
So of that $30, that's what right now? 15 gallons, maybe $2 a gallon is about the price. Yeah. Okay, so 28 cents off every gallon. What the heck is that? My math is off right now.
Well, if it's about $2 a gallon, and you take what'd you say, 78 cents off?
Huh?
No, 28 cents
28
off. 28 cents off.
28 point something.
Oh, that's good. No, that's 72.
72 what?
Cents. $1.72 left. That doesn't go to that gas tax.
Well, add it up. Add it up there. We got to give the right figures.
All right. I can estimate that. Okay, so we got $2 a gallon. Oh, that's 2,000. That's what it's going to be next week. All right. $2 a gallon.
So let's say you're putting 15 gallons in.
Okay,
so
times
28.
15.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
28 cents.
So that's $30. Yeah. And then 28 cents per gallon.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be
what are you running out of fingers over
15
there?
15 gallons times 28 cents is equal to $4.20.
You remember the episode with the BST when I couldn't figure out 100 times 11?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the more infamous moments on this. We're sitting in the very same chairs.
We record late at night.
What's 100 times 11? Okay. So
you work hard all day and come back. Math isn't our strong suit, maybe.
Well, it was at one time, So $4.20 of that goes to the state of Minnesota. I believe it's 19 cents to the federal government. So you can see how much in taxes that you're actually paying. So of that $4.20, Jay, the state has a pie And we're not going to get into the minutia because I want to come up with ideas to fix this, not come up with minutia here about how it's spent and all that. A small percentage of that goes to municipal streets, a percentage goes to county roads, and a percentage goes to state highways and what's called a trunk highway.
Yeah.
Okay. So that money, so that 9% of that going to municipal street aid.
Yes.
So that is going to cities largely. Municipal.
Right.
That's again another broad definition in this state. But it goes to cities. So we're taking the tax dollars, sending it to St. Paul, and St. Paul is redistributing it based on their formula or based on the city's begging or whatever it is to get their money that their constituents paid back to them.
Right.
Okay, same thing with I mean there's a belief among some who serve in county and city government that that's free money.
Right.
Okay. There's another belief that's saying that that money that is sent there, you take X amount out for administration, child care, vacation time, hemorrhoid cream, and then send it back to the cities. It's not an efficient way to fund anything.
Well, let's break that down just a little further. We've explained it on the show, but it's been a long time. If you send $100 to St. Paul, they might take out $30 for administrative fees, $5 for hemorrhoid cream.
Couple bucks for Viagra. Now that it's generic,
$10.
Not that I would know
for lunch for everybody up there. All right, so you take it out $45, right? So then the city begs. Bags, and they get 65 of that 100 back.
Well, now we got masks and shields, know. So there is always a percentage that's lost in those transactions. Now you also have the vehicle sales tax right now, and there's constitutional limitations on this based on a referendum that was passed. I can't recall what year. 2004 or 6, 8 maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
That 58% of that money is spent on roads. 42% is spent on non-driving.
Yes.
So that's transit, bikes, sidewalks.
Yeah.
Wheelchair
motorized
lanes.
scooters.
Yeah, right. Hover around scooter stores. We just watch The Price is Right.
Stargazing.
Commercials.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Leaf picking. I don't know what they do, but so you have that on top of it. You also have your license tab and registration fees.
Yes.
So you have big pots of money. And when you think about how a city can take municipal street aid, there are a lot of gimmicks and things with MSA streets. They have a lot of requirements. They have a lot of you want money from these funds that nobody cuts you a check and just hands it to you. And Jay, I'm going to propose a solution.
Okay.
And it may not sound like the greatest solution, okay? But I think this would be better. First off, the gas tax is a very, very regressive tax.
Yes.
It hurts lower and middle income people paying 47 cents, whatever the federal and state is together, per gallon. Okay? It's also a very expensive tax for consumers because the grocery store that got their delivery was from a truck that fueled up.
Yes.
That fuel cost was passed on to the grocery store.
Yes.
The grocery store then passes that off in their prices for their stuff. Okay? So
now they don't sit back there like, okay, I'm paid this much in gas tax.
No.
They're not doing that in the back room, but because of the price that they're charged by the delivery company, then,
that adds into they have to make that up somehow.
They have to be able to make a profit.
So let's take the percentage of let's get rid of municipal street aid.
Okay.
Let's get rid of county street aid. Okay. We're not going to pay state of Minnesota taxpayers, when I'm governor, we are not going to pay. Hennepin County taxpayers are not going to pay for a county road in Roseau or Yellow Medicine County or Houston County or Pipestone County. No. We're going to get rid of that percentage of the gas tax.
Yeah.
So say that's a third of the gas tax. We'll bring that down to, what would that be, 19 cents now, 20 cents?
Yeah.
We'll bring that down. Okay? Now, cities, you're not going to get any aid. You're going to have to figure it out on your own. But let me tell you, some people will say, well, that'll lead to higher this and higher that. Maybe. But you will be in direct control in your city. You as a voter, because there's nothing more frustrating than going to your city and having them pass the buck to the state, or them pass the buck to the county, or them pass the buck to blah, blah, blah. No. You got no more excuses now.
Right.
So you're not going to get the money, but all of your citizens are paying less in a regressive tax.
Yes, that's true.
And your businesses as well. Your consumers are going to see lower prices. Your businesses are going to see savings. Mm-hmm. They'll take that savings. They might give somebody a raise. They might hire another person. Mm-hmm. They might pay more on your health care, give you more vacation days. I don't know.
And you're not sending the money to St. Paul and seeing a portion of it come back either.
Exactly. So, Jay, how's that as a proposed solution?
I like that.
To the problem. County level, same thing. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get the free money, but you don't have the mandates or anything that comes with it.
Right.
And you take up and your consumers and government is saving money too, because government fills up the tanks with gas.
Absolutely.
The plows and the fire trucks and the police cars. Yep. So there's one of my first detailed proposals.
I like it.
For when my first budget in the February forecast 2027. Okay, that's going to be one of my main proposals, is to get rid of that and implement my stopping the merry-go-round of money that we see. So that is one proposal I would say, because we are community solutions, Jay.
Yes.
We don't just bloviate. Okay, we have ideas and we come up with this stuff. So that right there is my master plan to
I like that.
rid ourselves of those things. So, and again, there is and also here's another problem. And I'll let you make a suggestion as soon as you have one, but I have another brilliant one. The vehicle sales tax.
Yes.
One of the problems with it is that X amount has to go to transit and X amount has to go. It's weird how the law is worded. A minimum of 40% must go to transit.
Yeah.
A maximum of 60% must go to roads.
Yes.
Which is strange. In 58 to 42 in the last biennium was how they agreed to spend it. I want to take the motor vehicle sales just to discourage transit. Okay? But because it's not fair.
Right.
Because you look at places that build transit, like take Duluth, for example. There's plenty of people in Duluth to support your own transit if you feel you need it.
Yes.
Okay, Duluth is what, the third largest city? Fourth largest? Is Rochester bigger?
I think that technically the third largest is like Bloomington or something like that.
I thought
now,
it went Minneapolis, St. Paul, Rochester, Duluth, Bloomington, Brooklyn Park is up there.
Yeah,
Maple Grove.
Maple Grove is up there.
Plymouth, St. Cloud. Yeah, you go look it up. You look it up. But if you're big enough to have a transit, do you know that the Duluth Trail, put it up in here, what's your hometown, Sphincter?
What?
Sphincter?
No.
What is it?
Proctor.
Proctor, yeah, it's Proctor. Okay.
And yes, the Duluth transit system does go into Proctor. Yes.
And Hermantown?
Hermantown,
okay,
yes.
so, the thing is that, those transit authorities have state funding through the MVST.
Yeah.
So if Duluth wants their own roads, it's like, okay, pal, build them yourself. You want transit though? Hey, we got a bucket full of money to give it to you.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of I think what we ought to do with the vehicle sales tax, Jay, is just slash that. We need to slash that from 6% down to like 1.5.
Yeah.
Because, hey, then who cares about the percentages now? Okay? Who cares? Let's slash that so that, you're not spending. I mean, again, the spending is just, I think, is way too off in transit. Because if you're not in an area that, and most areas that have transit, I question how much they really need.
Yeah.
Again, you're funding transit that you'll never see, you'll never use.
Mm-hmm.
It holds no statewide value.
Right.
It's a regional value. It's a city value. Mostly regional. County-wide, maybe. I mean, it's something St. Louis County could take over, ultimately. But I think that ought to be just slashed. We ought to just slash that. Slash it completely.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just... counties and all that can make it up with their own wheelage tax if they want. But every time you make a sale, again, another regressive tax, Jay.
Yes.
Another tax that you buy a car, okay, and that hits the person on the lowest totem pole
Yeah.
the hardest.
Yes, it does.
Does anybody who has, six figures in the bank care if they pay a 4% tax or a 5% tax? I mean, do you think they probably don't even do their own taxes? Okay, yeah. I mean, what difference does that make? Let's help those at the lowest end with lowering that regressive tax. And again, you might say, well, the taxes might get raised locally. That may happen. But again, you have the direct local control, and they can't turn around and blame somebody else for their issues.
Right.
That's what I want to, because what I want to make is that basic services, roads, public safety, parks, that kind of thing, are all with your local tax dollars. There's not a drop of money coming from anywhere else.
Right.
And so somehow we have to get to that system where we have to incentivize it somehow so that it's not well, where's my free money? What can I do with my free money?
And I've always said that the highest taxes should be your local taxes.
Yeah.
Your city,
it makes sense, though. The government closest to you.
And you're then, county, state, and federal. Now, that's not to say federal and state should stay where they're at.
Yeah.
And then city goes like, no. Yeah. Instead, the state and federal taxes need to come way down in order that the local governments then can pay for these things that are local issues. And everything right now is flipped on its head, and we're paying $79,000 for a hammer in the federal government. And maybe if we saved that and they went to Menards and bought one for $3.50, that they wouldn't have to spend
That's $3.50, by the way.
Yes, that they wouldn't have to spend that, and then maybe, just maybe, our taxes wouldn't go up that much at the local level. But they sure would come down at the federal and state level, saving people even more money.
But you also can't measure when you get rid of these taxes, whether it's a gas tax, another sales tax. You got to factor in how much more money. Think of how many gallons of gas you buy in a year.
Yes.
And if every time you went to the pump, you saved $2.
Yeah.
And when you sold a car, you saved a couple hundred. And when you bought your tabs, you saved, which you do every year. I mean, imagine, take all that money in a family of four that has 3 cars, maybe, if they could, if you got a teenager, I mean, that adds up quick. If a portion of that goes to your local governments and the government becomes more efficient and more accountable, that is a win-win.
Absolutely. 5 largest cities in Minnesota in 2019 by estimate here were Minneapolis at 435,885, St. Paul at 315,925, Rochester at
Was I right again? Or was I right again? I never.
Bloomington, I was almost right, at 90,271, and then Duluth at 87,306.
So that's the estimate. I wonder in 2010 census how it was done. Probably very similar, but
probably. Although they did say that 43 counties have lost population since 2010.
Out of 87, so half the counties.
Yeah.
Well, look at it this way. We'll find out next in the spring when the census comes out. We'll find out what really happened. So look, Jay, that's the transportation angle. Okay. There's other angles too where we can get. How about this? How about we got to do something to discourage bonding?
Yes.
We have to do something with that. Now, I'm not a big fan of local government aid.
No, I'm not either.
But fiscal disparities laws, if we accept the fact that we're going to have them in the short run, how do we fix that? So that, like we talked about, the money is not going to fund your basic services.
Right.
Your basic services are self-sufficient. So if there's a loss of LGA, if there's a loss of government aid, if there's a loss of money from street aid, that your basic, your street maintenance, your parks, your public safety, police and fire are not affected by that.
Right.
How do we make that happen?
Well, first, I think cities need to get out of debt, and not have so much money going to debt service, because then you can keep that in savings accounts. Well, not like traditional savings accounts that get like 0.0001 rate of return, but you know what I mean, where it can be put away in savings, money market funds, things like that, other bond funds, depending on how liquid or illiquid it needs to be.
You're putting it in slow growth things.
Right. Exactly, where it's safe. You're being responsible with the people's money. And then you go and buy the things you need when you need them. You have a little bit of foresight.
Capital expenses.
Yeah. You have a little bit of foresight and you say, okay, we're going to need a new police station in 10 years. We're going to need to redo these roads in 15 years. We're going to
need police cars in 5 years.
You put stuff away. And this is part of why, with local taxes, they may need to go up a little, but we've never advocated for hiking them up. It has been getting rid of the taxes you already pay and don't know about. Once those hidden taxes are exposed and put onto your tax levy, you will know exactly what you pay and why and what for, rather than having these drips and drabs come out from all over the place, and whether that's through bonding, and whether that is through franchise fees, whether that is through other types of
licenses and permits.
Licenses and permits, all these different revenue schemes that local governments come up with. That would be a lot easier just to know on your tax statement, here's what I'm going to pay, and they're going to take care of everything that they're responsible for.
Just think, Jay.
Yeah.
You can either bond everything and pay huge debt service, or you could save the money and get interest from your savings.
Yeah.
I mean, what a complete turnaround.
Yeah.
We should mention, and you and I should mention this, a lot of cities are going to have to go through a transition. That's a long-term goal. I think one thing that could happen is, I'm not a big fan of putting limits on cities, and I'd rather have those decisions made at the local level rather than at the state level. Because it's funny, the state limits cities and counties, they never limit themselves.
Right.
They always limit somebody else. Okay? But think about it like this. If you put a few more restrictions on bonding, not saying you can't bond, or we're going to tell you can bond this or can't bond, blah, blah, blah. But bonding is, especially in statutory cities where, there's a cap on it statewide, but it's very, very, it's not very, I think that needs to be lowered. Because I think if you're not telling cities they can't do something. You're not telling cities you're just saying, look, what we're going to do to discourage you from constantly racking up, because once you rack the debt up, a new council can come along, but they may have 10 years of stuff to try to. You've buried the city, figuratively.
Yes.
So we have to come up with something to get that discouraged. In other words, I'm not telling you can't do something, but there are going to be consequences if you do it.
Right.
You know, I mean, like, for one, if you're going to, the word need has to have a definition. The fact that you can bond for things you don't need, okay, is a huge problem. Okay,
Yes.
Put it this way: having a fire station is a need.
Yes.
Having a pool is not a need.
Right.
So you could pass something saying you can't bond for a pool.
Yeah, no bonding for amenities.
Or
It
if you
must be
do,
for- yeah.
it requires a public vote. You could do something like that. Charter cities could implement that into their charters,
Absolutely.
too, to prevent future councils from undoing what they're doing. But I think that may be something, a way to get around this too. Do you need a public works building with plow trucks and of course you do.
Yes.
But you don't need an amphitheater.
Right.
So you can't bond for the amphitheater. Now, how about that as a solution? You know, bonding. I am one that does not think a bond is an evil four-letter word. I don't subscribe to the theory that there's look, I have a credit card. I use it occasionally. Okay. I can think of some funny examples of where I've had to. I won't say them here. But the point is that bonding exists for a reason. What I want to get out of the mentality of is, we're bonding for something because interest rates are low.
Right.
We're bonding, or you didn't plan for something, so we're just going to do it. We're bonding because that's what staff recommends. We're bonding because that's what we did last time. That's the mentality I want out. So would that be acceptable to say, okay, you can't bond for a minute? We're going to define wants and needs. And you can bond for this and you can't bond. I'm going to tell you something. You'd see a drastic decrease in bonding if amenities could not be bonded for.
Yeah, and government bonding is a lot different than like businesses or, businesses taking on debt where
there's no full faith and credit
Right.
from the supermarket.
Well, I mean, but you look at the purposes of it too. You talk about good debt and bad debt. I mean, all government debt is really bad.
Yeah.
With business, like for my business, I needed at one point to get like a PA system, so that people can hear me when I'm out and about playing my guitar and singing. Well, I had to take on credit to get that. I put that on a credit card, but not only did I have it paid off super fast, I have made far more from having that because I employ it in my business.
You couldn't have earned the revenue without the short-term expense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Government can't do that.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a pool that can't even make its money back in concessions.
Make its money back. They can't even make 30%.
No. So it's always, it's always a bad idea in government unless there's an emergency and you don't have the cash on hand.
The only exception, I think, too, may be during a transition. If you have a long-term goal and you're working towards it, but you haven't worked up the cash balance yet, that is also a time where I can understand it. How about, do we have to go after things like special assessments? How do we incentivize special assessments to be? Because again, I'm one that does not want to come in and tell cities you can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, I don't want to be like that.
Right.
At the same time, here's what I think. I think that special assessments have got to be in big, bold letters on your property taxes.
Yeah.
It has to stand out that is there. Because I think, like you said, the hidden taxes, and the property tax statement, it will say tax and other, it will, I don't know how I can't remember how it's worded exactly, but your property taxes and other blah, 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 from their city portion.
Right.
But I think it needs to say, and project blah, 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 plus interest.
Yep.
Here's what you're paying in interest. Here's what you're paying in principal, plus what you're paying on everything else.
Yes.
Because I'm telling you, I didn't understand it for the longest time either. I can understand how somebody can't look at their budget or their CAFR and understand it.
Yes.
The longest time I couldn't either. But somehow those I think one thing that could help it is getting rid of municipal street aid, because municipal street aid is part of what makes up a special assessment, and it comes with a bunch of conditions like an environmental impact study and things like that. They're added expenses that come with a special assessment. It doesn't come when the city takes it on itself and doesn't have the state government subsidizing part of it and adding all those requirements and expenses.
Right.
So somehow we have to, again, statutory cities, remember, charter cities can write it in and say, no, we're not going to finance this that way. Here are your options, council, whatever they are. And statutory cities, states can make, but I'm loath. The constitutionalist in me does not want to outlaw it. Mm-hmm. I want the locals to do that. I want to de-incentivize it somehow. Yes. So I don't know how to work that exactly. I got 6 years to figure it out. But somehow I'll do it. But that's where I think that we've got to go in that direction on that. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Of course, there's other things, Jay.
Of course, there are always other things.
There's housing, which is a big thing that local governments often don't have as much say in as they would like to.
Yeah, and especially out in the rural, well, not rural, but the smaller towns. They're being pushed in a lot of cases
to be the cookie cutter city.
Have the mixed use development where you have the shops on the ground floor with renters above them, where you have high density, where it is the same thing, and it doesn't seem to matter whether it's someplace like Elk River or whether it's someplace like Alexandria or Big Lake or whether it's in the cities.
Pick your city, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Same stuff's being pushed.
Absolutely it is.
So again, how does a city get out of that, and what do we change at the state level to fix that?
Well, and I don't know how much of that is the state level pushing it. A lot of that in the metro here, you have the Metropolitan Council pushing
but who funds that? Again, there is a role there for the state.
They need to take power away from the Met Council, and they need to stop giving it so much money and taxing authority.
And granting authority. When you can get free money with 200 conditions, you look at the same thing in greater Minnesota.
With MADO,
you wonder, again, the money getting sent to one, being redistributed somewhere else, and the same policies getting pushed everywhere. I just wonder, if you're a small town, and you've decided to go in our direction. Say you're a town of 5,000. Pick your city. I don't know what that would be. I can't think of something off the top of my head. Say you're in Alexandria. It's got more than 5,000 people.
Yes,
Let's just pretend. Pretend you're in Alexandria, and this council there has decided we are going to go and try to be debt-free. We're going to try our basic services to have nothing to do with LGA, nothing to do with municipal streets. If we get the money, we'll set it aside for a project in the future so we don't have to bond. Fine. How do you get out of the housing push? Do you have to set a policy that you're not going to take any grant money? Do you have to set because there are tentacles to that.
Yes.
The what county is that? What county is Alexandria? Douglas County?
I think so, yeah.
Douglas County might come in and say, well, we have a county road here in Alexandria, and we are going to redo something on that road. But here's what we want. We want
bike lanes,
wheelchair lanes, scooter store lanes. We want this area, because remember,
big old roundabout.
But remember, Alexandria is a place, and I'm sure there's a township or something around it that is,
and small towns like Osakis and stuff around it,
right?
As well.
And you've got undeveloped areas too that are within city limits. Well, we want this area developed. We want it subsidized. And you either do that or,
right.
We went through this in Crystal with County Road 81. How do you fight that fight? And more importantly, how do you make it so that a county, how do we get it so a county can't bully a city and say, look, that's not what we want in our city. You have the county road. Your job's to maintain it. It's not to change the makeup of our city. It's not to force things in it that you can tell them to go to hell, but what are the consequences to that? And how do we get the two sides to work in concert? How do we get, is there a way, and I don't know if this would be at the county level or at the state level, is there a way to get counties to do their jobs without pushing other things? Do you have to just raise hell?
It's
step one might be to raise hell, but
it's a double-edged sword. You've got the counties pushing on one side, and then on the other side, really you have the city doing it to themselves, because they go to a group like MADO. For those of you that don't know, it's the Minnesota Association of Development Organizations, who offer planning, help to write comprehensive plans. And so you're going to get in your comprehensive plan the kinds of things that they want to put in it.
Okay, but the comprehensive plan is a guide, not a Bible.
Right, but some cities, it's pretty ironclad.
Yeah, it's pretty tough once it's written down for years. It's hard to move it. Yeah.
Right. And some cities, and I think I can say this now just because of the change coming in Big Lake, that under the previous leadership, they had their comprehensive plan task force, which should be led by citizens, but it wasn't. They brought in these fancy consultants
planning
with their preconceived notions.
We just did a show on those.
Right.
Backgrounds.
While Big Lake does not officially belong to one of the 10 regional development organizations around the state.
Yeah, they're in that sliver where they're lucky.
Yeah.
It's like a big teardrop.
Right. They still bring in government consultants to make their comprehensive plan into something that they don't want it to be. So you have the cities doing it to themselves, setting themselves up for failure, saying this is what we want to do. And then on the other hand, you have the counties pushing it. So, step one obviously is to say, no, I'm not going to do it, and to hold out as long as you can. They're going to blackmail you. They're going to, tell you we're not going to do it. We're not going to fix this if you don't comply. You got to just hold your ground. I think, they've got to take care of their roads. That's their mandate. Yeah, so I think no matter how they threaten you, they've got to take care of it at some point.
Yeah, I just wonder if, but again, I think it's kind of like, and I'm one that does not care for groupthink. Yeah. But let me make a weird comparison. You see bars and restaurants trying to open up in defiance of the governor.
Right.
If one bar and restaurant does it, there's no way it's going to succeed.
Yeah.
The 1,000 of them do it.
Yeah.
There's no way the government can stop them all.
Right.
So is it the same thing here? Does Alexandria have to get together with the cities and townships around them and say, look, I don't care where you come in this county, whether it's Hazard County, Chickasaw County, Choctaw County, Hatchapee County, wherever around here, we're all acting in concert that your job is to fix your roads, not to tell us what you're going to change in our city without our okay.
Right. Well, and part of that,
you can't threaten us.
Right. The county, it's a little tougher. It's going to take some tenacity to be able to pull that off. If you're talking about the regional development organization, say Arrowhead RDO, you've got the whole.
Isn't that
Arrowhead
in Kansas
of
City? That's in Kansas City, Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you've got Grand Marais, Grand Portage,
The whole northeastern,
banding together and say we're not going to do that in those cities, then the people that fill out that RDO, Regional Development Organization, are people that often serve on staff at cities, or they are elected at cities, and they go and they serve at the RDO. Well, if you have enough cities that say that's not the way we're doing it, then you alleviate that part of the pressure. The county, that's going to be a whole different animal, because you are going to have people that are going, their vision and your vision are not going to match.
Yeah.
Especially when counties are being pushed to go into
counties are being pushed too.
Equity.
We should say this:
Yes.
Counties are being pushed too. Yeah,
absolutely. There's a huge push for equity in everything, whether it's equity in transit, equity in housing,
crisis. It's a healthcare crisis.
Right. So. You're going to have the counties pushing back on you, saying, no, you need to have equity in your housing. You need to have equity in your roads. You need to have equity in your transit. And this is why. I mean, you provide the opportunity for people to come out there and rent or buy an affordable, single family home or whatever, but maybe they don't have a car. Well, now you got to have a way to get people around. So that opens the door for transit to come along to make sure that these people can work. Well, if they just stayed in the city where there was already available transit and all that, I mean, you'd have that. And the idea is that you work hard enough to pull yourself up out of that situation, get a car or move further out on the bus line or whatever until you can afford a car and move further out.
It's a process.
It's
though.
a process.
A lot of people go through that.
Yeah, you don't start at Millionaire Acres.
How many people are poor college kids, and eventually when they're 30 or 40, they get into their careers and they get promoted, and they start off with a starter house somewhere or an apartment, and then they buy, and then maybe they buy again, and then maybe they move because they got. I mean, the idea that everybody is going to have the same things lined up at every age, every step of their life. At 25, you're entitled to the same. I mean,
we've lost the ability to be patient.
But we've also lost the ability to be individuals.
Yes.
I mean, some people go further in their careers. Some people are satisfied with X. Some people, take a job as a teacher or a fireman. It may not pay the best, but it's a very rewarding career, and they enjoy it. They can retire earlier. Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, and so people have to do those jobs too. And I mean, the idea that we're all gonna be like Casablanca, we're all gonna be together again at the end. It's just silly. Here's the thing: if you're a critic of equity, okay. The knock on you is that you're racist or you don't care about the little guy. That is a word that needs a coherent opposition to. They need a catchy word like that or phrase to oppose this equity stuff. Because we've lost in this country the concept of equal opportunity, not equal outcome. We've lost individualism. Everybody is put into a group of, you're gay, you're black, you're a woman, you're one of the other 26 genders, you're
intersectionality.
I mean,
we talked about that.
We've lost that individuality, that a high achiever. It's all drag everybody down to where we spread equal misery everywhere. So I mean, the housing is it's a big deal, because ultimately, and we haven't even brought up broadband yet. We should do that real quick, because the second you have equal broadband access, you can live anywhere and work. And I think that may be the future of a lot of smaller cities and towns. You think about a ghost town.
Yeah.
Booming mining town, and a town 100 years ago where one company employed 3/4 of the city,
Right.
and that company ups and leaves, and it becomes a ghost town.
Mm-hmm.
The town just dies.
Yeah.
What can save that? What can save the because it's so precious to me. To me, small towns and quiet, smaller size cities are so precious. They're such a jewel. America has, Minnesota in particular, has so many of those. And then the further west you go, away from the Northeast, a lot of them in the South too. And they are relentlessly under attack, like you said, to conform to the big city policies.
Yes.
And prism, or whatever you want to call it. So the equal broadband may be the ultimate equalizer.
It could be. Now,
No, not the way Amy Klobuchar envisions it.
right.
But,
It's not a right.
Yeah, it's
But it needs to be made.
it's equal access.
Yes.
Not equity.
Right. I think that it's kind of the Wild West as far as broadband goes in most of the state. And you should just, as local governments, say to those companies, come on in, let's see who does the best job for the cheapest and have at it. But the government instead wants to control it, wants to monopolize it, wants it to be more like a utility than an individual
And
company
guess what?
coming in.
Get ready to have a higher bill every time you open it up, because the lack of competition is what it's. Look, if a private company actually came and did that, they'd be broken up, they'd be arrested for price fixing, but if the government runs a monopoly, it's okay. Then it's fair.
Right.
Government runs a monopoly, it's fair. If a monopoly happens for whatever reason, and they happen sometimes for market-based reasons.
Yeah.
Then, they're terrible. We have to break them up. Oh my God, blah blah blah. But if the government controls it, it's okay. Again, equal access. But yes, there's so many regulatory problems there. We can't even get into it. There's every time I hear a politician talk about broadband, it is always cloaked, and I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican, because I don't care.
Yeah.
They both talk about it as if the government has to get a central plan together and strategically put, broadband access everywhere. And who knows what the conditions might be to that. Mm-hmm. You want broadband? Well, then you need to have green space over by the. I don't know.
Absolutely, that could be a requirement.
Xcel Energy, look how much they're pushed to. They have to conform to every green thing to keep their monopoly.
Absolutely, put up 75 million windmills, and you can take an inch of land and put down some cable.
They were big advocates for the LED bulbs. Why do you think?
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are going to bill for them.
Right.
Talk about giving the customers no choice. I mean,
know.
Come on. So there's so many ways. I mean, just look, Minnesota is so known for taking the simple and making it ridiculously complex. It's like if somebody in the Minnesota government, if you ask them how to get from Crystal to Robbinsdale, they'd send you to Duluth, then out to Alexandria, down to Mankato, and back up to Crystal. That's what they would do.
Yeah.
That's the analogy I would give to how your tax dollars work, especially in the area of transportation and also in other areas too, where I fill up for gas in Grand Rapids. The taxes, the gas station sends them in to St. Paul every quarter or every month, and some bureaucrat takes out the money for themselves in St. Paul. Goes to the legislature, then it's sent out to, Granite Falls for their municipal road. Now, like you said, that $5 or whatever that I spent in taxes is $250 by the time it gets out to Granite Falls. That's That's what we're looking at. That's what we're fighting here. That's why when I'm governor, we're going to get rid of that part of. I've just made another pledge. Not only are we going to implement the bicycle sales tax, but we are going to. I don't have their votes anyway, so I might as well just tax them, and then bring on the reduction in the state portion, 28 cents. We'll bring it down to, I don't know what, I think it was like 19, I think we figured. And so that every time you fill up, there will be a 9 cent per gallon decrease, and we're not going to have the merry-go-round of money anymore. The $2.50 that Granite Falls will pay that $2.50, but they're not paying $5 at the pump.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's a win-win for everybody. So there you go.
There you go. I like that.
Man, you know what? And here's what's amazing. I came up with that plan at about a half an hour of studying this stuff.
Yeah.
And I came up with a grand plan. I mean, the bicycle sales tax, I totally came up with on the fly.
Yeah.
You know, just on the...
Well, that's easy.
100 times 11.
You got a bunch of bicyclists that are in the way. Let's just tax them.
Well, I mean, you've got... If it were drivers driving on there, they would be paying for the roads they're driving.
Absolutely.
You know, so why
they should be paying for the roads that they're driving on.
They should have something in the game.
Yeah.
Something should be in the game. It shouldn't all be on drivers to pay for everybody else. There should be something in the game, and that's all I'm asking. You know, it's a latte a day, right? Isn't that what the old saying was?
That's the old saying. Yeah.
That's I can't use that. That's terrible.
Oh,
Jay.
Yes.
As always, great shows in the works. Lots to think about on those shows. I know that we kind of just scratched the surface a little bit with some of that. But, you know, we give you something to think about on this program. And we are solutions-oriented. We don't just complain, even though you do a lot of that.
Oh. Do I?
Yeah, it's also solutions. So we've offered some solutions.
Yes.
The bonding one, I really like that solution. You're not taking bonding away. You're saying you can't bond for amenities.
Yes.
You want something, you either have to pay for it in cash, you have to go to do a referendum, whatever. No threatening, like Elk River threatening you that you either approve this or we're going to pay for it anyway, some way. I mean, it's total BS. So that's we gave positive ideas, and I'm ready to get ripped on for a bunch of stuff that I said. All right, once again, my friends, the king of Sting, the pop of popcorn, the Roddy of Piper, the suffering of Succotash, jet flying, limousine riding. The girls love them, at least the ones over 70. I present with the sign-off sermon, Jason Bradley, the third junior, giving us his rendition, episode 190. That's almost between 189 and 191.
Yeah.
Jay, take it away. That rhymed.
Yeah. Wow, 190 shows. We've been doing this for 190 shows every week. We have been coming and bringing the knowledge, and we still seem to find things to talk about. It's amazing. There's no shortage of crap in government.
Yeah, if we had solved all the problems, we'd be off the air.
Oh, that's just when we go into takeover phase. No. Wow. Government, the trough of... Let me back up. How many of you have ever been to a farm? Some of you may run a farm. Some of you maybe visited a farm as a kid. You know, and you walk in like to the dairy barn, right? And you have the stalls where the animals are. And in behind each animal, there's this trough that runs all the way down. Well, that trough is there because it fills up with crap. And then it's easier for the farmer to run it down the trough and get rid of it. but nonetheless, it's still full of crap. Government's kind of like that trough, except it's a whole lot deeper and a whole lot thicker. And yeah, I get it. We're supposed to bless our government, right? Because they look out for us and they take care of us. Well, let me say this. Government shouldn't be taking care of us unless we are the poorest among the poor, the most destitute among the most destitute, those of us who have maybe a mental condition where we're not able to hold down a job or whatever. But government is not supposed to be taking care of most of us. They're supposed to be making rules that protect freedom and then get out of the way. We shouldn't have to deal with 5-foot deep troughs of animal manure. That's really... I can't think of any more plain way to say it than that. But yet that's what government has been giving us. And it doesn't seem to matter whether it's Democrat or Republican. I mean, one is less bad than the other for the most part. One is not killing babies. One is not allowing people just to flood in and with, no law, one is not like we see in Seattle where they're not going to prosecute certain low-level offenses and then they're going to make the taxpayers pay the restitution because it's not fair. What? Excuse me, if I don't think that I should be paying somebody else's restitution for breaking the law. Excuse me if I don't care how poor they are after they hurt somebody, after they destroy some property, after they steal somebody's identity, after they do certain things where they should be paying for what they've done. That's not my responsibility. But these are the exact kind of policies that I'm talking about. It's those types of policies. It's the policies that this place doesn't have enough bike paths. Well, maybe, before you go out to an area and make it like the one you just came from because you hated it, don't make it into that when you get there. How about that? See, in government, they're just all too willing to have an answer. If they have the answers, they get reelected. I would like to see a city that stands for freedom to the degree that their constituents actually get to experience freedom at a very deep and intense level. Now, that's not to just say government lifts its hands off and says, you're on your own, buddy. Obviously, there are certain things they have to do. They have to keep the roads in good shape. They have to make sure that order is kept. Basic functions of government that enhance liberty. There's not a good private solution for some of these things yet, and government has to do it. That's all right. There's minimum thing, that the government has to do. But they've overstepped. And they've overstepped, and they've overstepped, and they've overstepped. They continue to overstep. They continue to treat us like idiots. They continue to try and make deals in a back room when we can't see or hear what they're doing. They make bills that are thousands of pages long because none of us have the time to read them, and we can't hold them accountable. Every bill should be 1 to 2 pages maximum, put in plain language that we can understand. I know that there was a time when government, for the most part, men saw it as an honor to serve, and they really did serve the people that they were representing. I think those times have come and gone for the most part. Now, you got some people out there that do a fantastic job, but you have a whole lot of people, both appointed and elected, especially the appointed ones, that are not doing what's in the best interest of the people they represent. So what do? We're left with answers. We don't have them. We don't want to get in the game. Well, then what hope do we have? If we don't want to sacrifice a little bit of temporary comfort to get out there and make sure that we protect not only our own liberty, but the liberty of others, our neighbors, our family, our friends, what good are we? What good are we if we don't put our money where our mouth is? If we just run our mouth all day and we don't do a thing to actually change things? We can talk till we're blue in the face. It is not going to change anything. We might sway somebody from voting for something for a little while, but it always comes back. That's why we need good people in office to run and to run and to run until we get that 10,000 plus people in appointed and elected positions across the state. And we can do this. There are enough of us like-minded people out there that we can do this. Outside of Twin Cities, most of the state is like-minded anyways. But yet the ones who aren't happen to be the ones that run for office. Or you get the ones that don't understand how to govern, or that are not strong enough, that don't have the intestinal fortitude to stand up to staff when they bring crazy ideas like let's not charge people for restitution that have committed crimes. Let's charge taxpayers. No. This is where we need to take a stand. And guess what? We're in a brand new election cycle. We are starting to shift gears and think about what's coming in 2022. Governor elections, House elections. What are we going to do? Well, we got Keith Ellison's going to be up. What are we going to do? We're going to continue to put this guy in office? He hasn't done anything for us. He's prosecuted businesses. He has prosecuted people that have tried to stand up for what's good. He has prosecuted people that were attacked by mobs and defended themselves. He doesn't deserve to run the legal portion of our state. So we gotta do this differently, Minnesota. It is time for you to declare right here and now, not on my watch. Not on my watch. I am not going to let corruption continue. I am not going to let them continue to carry these emergency shutdowns to shut down my business, to shut down my kids' school, to shut down the things that I like to go do and to congregate with people, to shut down my ability to have people in my home. Not going to allow it anymore. So what you going to do? You going to talk about it, or are you going to do something? We want to hear from you. COMMSolutionsMN@gmail.com. That is COMMSolutionsMN@gmail.com. And we are going to take this fight out of our homes, out of our businesses, and we're going to win because we are going to live. That's what we're going to do. The Constitution, the Declaration of Independence guarantees us these three rights as given to us by our Creator. Endowed by our Creator, the right to life, the right to liberty, and the right to the pursuit of happiness. You happy, all penned up? Are you living? Are you free? Well, here we go. Here we go. Our sights on 2022. Things are going to change. We need people in the primaries thinking about it now to take out senators and House members that aren't pulling their weight. Is it you? I don't know. But now is the time to start considering it. The only way for us to get all of this firing on all cylinders is to spread the word, to become evangelists about creating a new type of government. And it's not new at all. It's going back to the beginning. Getting the government out of our business. So, what you going to do? Like this, share it, hit the subscribe bell on YouTube. That's a good start. But then we got to put our shoulder to the wheel. We can't do this alone. In fact, we can't do it without you. Yes, you listening to us right now. We are close to going into the year 2021. We're not slowing down. We're not giving up. We're going to come back with season 5, and we're not saying goodbye to season 4 yet, but I'm just looking ahead. We're going ahead with season 5, and we are not stopping because the work is not done. So, think about that for a week. We've done our part. And we love you, Minnesota. But now it's your turn to get to work.